This week on QDL, we talked to James Soto, founder and CEO of Industrial. What do marketing and industrial technology have in common? Well, a lot, as it turns out. Find out more in 30 seconds. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest. Well, technology overtakes us in the blink of an eye. If you listen to science programs, as I often do, it's incredible what new discoveries or advancements we see each week. And it's no surprise that the first people to latch on to these technologies are, marketing people, right? So if there's a way to reach people faster or more efficiently using technology, then really marketers are kind of the first to seize on it. And our next guest can attest to that. And furthermore, he's going to talk about how marketing and industrial technology overlap, because there's a lot of synergy between the two. James Soto, founder and CEO of Industrial, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, so as I said, there seems to be a lot of overlap between marketing and what's going on with technology in manufacturing. But before we get into that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what your company does?
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Industrial. We're a brand and business growth consultancy. We're focused squarely on the manufacturing industrial sector, the whole supply chain. So essentially what we do, if we were to promise anything, is really help industrials be better marketers and sellers of their own industrial products and services. And as part of that, a big part of that is we look at the full digital marketing and really digital marketing operations technology stack.
Okay, and I just to let people know, we kind of ran across you because you deal with some of the people that we bring onto the show. So I think some of your clients are NIST and the Manufacturing Execution Partnership, MEP. So you kind of have your, I'd say it's safe to say you kind of have your pulse on what's going on through your clients, what's going on in the world of manufacturing technology.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We're very fortunate to be part of working with organizations at various phases of organizational and digital transformation. So, we even go beyond some of those clients to work with folks like ASME. I've worked on the ASTM standards back in another life, back in the 90s. So when it comes to really the things that drive what we do and how we do it, and really how we deliver on a product's processes and promises, it's a big part of what we do.
Okay. So I said in the lead up to this that that marketers tend to be kind of early adopters of technology, because anything that's going to help you get your message out there quicker, better, faster, with more impact, you're looking for it because you're constantly scrambling for what's going to do the most for your clients. And you had told me earlier that a lot of what's going on with manufacturing technology is also something that is embraced by marketing people such as yourself. And I was kind of curious about that. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? How kind of there's this synergy between the two?
Yeah, so the synergy is that I think manufacturing and manufacturing operations and marketing communications technologies are related, because one, they're part of they're all part of optimally a core function of a business, but we're really all affected by these same technological forces. So whether it be, as we've really looked at the growth of automation, we've seen that when we look at the industrial Internet of Things and looking at, all those components of it, whether it's big data or machine learning, all of these actual components of what we would call Industry 4.0 have been really in the purview of the marketer for many, many years. As a matter of fact, we're often as marketers a lighthouse to these manufacturing operations that are really trying to adopt these same technologies.
And I'm going to guess that it's maybe for similar reasons, is in the same way that you want to reach customers with a message, it's all about messaging. Well, in the end, manufacturers are trying to reach customers as well, right? I mean, their
Sure.
end goal is to give their customers what they want, and technology is a way to do that kind of indirectly. They may not be using it to reach their customers directly, but they're using it to improve their own processes internally so that the end result is their customers get better products faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Those parallels are like go on and on. So if we really look at the fact that, back in, 19, or 2005, we really saw the first time that there was real evidence that the manufacturing industrial buyer from our purview was really in control of the buying process. We really saw that they were starting to really look digitally towards those businesses and how they transform. And as we look at how someone's operating their business, they're really having to look at what are those expectations for how they manage operations, quality, and really ultimately, this goes back to the 50s and 70s, businesses and manufacturing operations centering on the customer. And that really gets into how you operate, how do you find those efficiencies, and like I said before, as we look at automation and all of those technologies that are at play, we're really looking ultimately to deliver the same thing: find and deliver, grow a satisfied customer. And so that really goes across functions.
And can you give us an example of one or two technologies in particular, I don't know, like Internet of Things or whatever you want, that kind of deliver that, what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the industrial Internet of Things is really, in essence, the integration of complex physical machinery with networked sensors and software. So if you really think about it, the promise of the industrial internet is to use sensors, big data, machine learning, machine-to-machine communications. Right now, one of the big use cases, as an example, is really predictive maintenance and predicting failure. And so that has massive implications across industrial distribution, manufacturing. So whereas the opportunity of that technology is to really keep uptime and productivity, and the implications of predictive failure really have massive dollars saved in terms of an organization. Quality, you name it, are affected. Same thing with a marketer. A marketer is always looking to use things like sensor-based technology to actually predict behavior. And right now, as marketers, we can look at predictive intelligence. We can look at intent based on what people do. And if you really think at the sensors, you only have to look as far as your watch or your phone. We can sense not only digital signals as marketers, just like we would, let's say if we're looking at vibration or we're looking at heat or all of these things that would predict failure. We can also predict something that's going to happen with a human being, my heart rate. We give up so much information about momentum, accelerometers, location. If you really look at many of the things we can sense with our devices, it's almost the same things that we're applying towards, let's say a manufacturing application. So we're trying to influence, predict, decide, and that time to insight is so important. When you have the insight, you really have the power to deliver value.
What do you think is the most what do you think is holding the most interest, or is the most exciting new technology that manufacturers are looking at right now? Whether it's fully developed or just rolling out, or maybe just a buzz. I'm thinking maybe AI, but we've kind of talked AI to death. But I mean, maybe some other things that manufacturers really have their eye on right now because they really see where this is going to be something that's going to be very beneficial to them.
What's really interesting is I think ultimately, so you have to look at where they are, right? In any individual case, if they are a lighthouse when they're really, applying these technologies to organizations that are like looking at cobots, right? Like there's all different, levels of that integration. And I think ultimately, like if we're looking at where they're going, with that technology, I would say it's really the customer that we need to be looking at. It's centering on the customer because they're their journey, whether you're designing, manufacturing, logistically moving, or looking at that customer lifecycle and their satisfaction, the connectivity of the technology is really going to impact decisions on when we run product or not. If a failure happens, we make the connectivity, and where not so much any given one technology comes into play, but really the combination of those applied technologies on customer data, AI technology, predicting when we need to produce something. All of those things come together, and that's that integration and where that magic happens. I think it's also important, to kind of keep in mind that, researcher and scientists, someone I follow, Roy Amara, he coined the law of the effect of technology, and what he reflected on is that we often overestimate the impact of new technology in the short run, but we underestimate it in the long run. Sure. And I think we're at that time where we have to really look at the combination of these technologies, and as those develop, how do we really make those bets? That's one of the biggest things a manufacturer, a CEO, a chief marketing officer is concerned with, is when do they time these decisions? Because sometimes when you don't get the timing right, or you pick the wrong battle, it's too late for you competitively. And these new rising business models really require a deep understanding and centering of a business around the customer and their needs, because the things that we once did to get us to where we are, if we keep doing, will cause us to fail. And very often, almost in every business, the longer it's around, the area where they made their money, their chief revenue source, ceases to become that source. So you always need to be looking at the market and its needs. So the technology is just an enabler now to give us insights into the customer, and we can sense and predict their needs quite accurately. It's kind of getting scary. So not one particular technology to call out, but I believe it's the combination and utilization of that data and those insights that really matters.
Well, you're talking about something now that's something that I think everybody in the publishing industry talks about. If companies more and more are able to gather real-time data using technology from their customers and potential customers, what people are talking about on Twitter, maybe related to their customer, what people are Facebooking about them, about a specific company, the analytical data they're getting from sensors out in the field and so forth, which is also what you're trying to do as a company, as industrial. Aren't companies more and more moving into your realm, and I would say also into the realm of what publishers try to do in terms of advertising, where this data they're collecting is almost enabling the company itself to perform its own marketing function in real time? You know what I'm getting at?
Oh, absolutely. We're really looking at an integrated marketing has been a term used for quite some time now. But when you really look at the fact that if you center, again, I just bring it down to centering the business on the customer or the audience as a publisher, but essentially it's getting increasingly difficult to really reach those people at the right place with the right time at the right value, the information they need in order to do business with you. So to do that, yes, you do have to. And this is like one of our soapbox things we talk about as an organization. We've got, we have executive, we've got finance, we have operations, but so many organizations, and from our purview in the industrial sector, don't really address very critically the important critical function of marketing, communications, and technology as part of that role. The buyer has control. They don't have the loyalty. They do. You're a click away. If you're looking at a new production cycle from a new organization, and whether you're and publishers are looking at that challenge too. How do we help them market better? So it's affecting us all. But the reality of it is you have to be able to target, identify, and ultimately deliver value. And I sometimes start conversations with, how do you get yourself in a position to deliver value? And ultimately, these companies have to be relevant and available right at the moment of need. And so whether that's in the marketing realm saying, okay, I am going to Google and I am typing in, some type of search string around, centrifugal, fan or AC, explosion proof motor, people qualify themselves by the specificity of their search. That's why it's been so powerful, but they also qualify themselves by the things they do.
Right.
And
right.
what we sense around them. So that's really the bigger impact.
Do you see companies sometimes pursuing technology for the sake of technology as opposed to, is this really going to improve what I deliver to my customer? In other words, do they have it backwards sometimes? Is what do my customer needs, what technology is there to meet it, as opposed to, oh, there's this cool technology, I'm gonna use it and maybe it'll help my customer.
Yeah, so shiny objects.
Yeah, shiny objects.
Yeah, I think in order to compete, and be competitive in the in the competition, right? To get in the game, also to be competitive in the game. I think you really have to look at. You really have to take your organization out of it. So, for a lot of organizations, it's a zero-sum game. We make these investments. What was the investment? What was the return on the investment? And I think for many organizations, that's short-sighted. One of the things that I often look to is, like, if you've got a niche market, there's 4 major players that supply particular product or component to that marketplace. What I basically say is, imagine if you master these technologies, you can provide insights at the right time to the right person. You share the good stuff, and you make a design engineer, a plant manager, you name who it is. You give them the information they need in order to succeed before they even know it. That is the power. And that is what is going to put a lot of companies in a very challenging situation if they don't address that. And again, it gets that back down to that. How do you time the market? How do you make these decisions? And how do you ultimately deliver value? And this whole concept of centering on the customer and their needs ultimately leads to, if they get what they want when they need it, you're going to get what you want, which is that revenue, that relationship, sure. and obviously those profits as the reward.
And finally, as a PR/marketing person, do you find that some of your clients feel a need to, justify technology or argue against the idea that technology might displace jobs? I mean, that's always a constant thing that comes up is, AI is going to get rid of these many employees, or robotics is going to get rid of that many employees, or we're digitizing the entire manufacturing process, so we're going to lose employees. Do companies, are they sensitive? Do they seem to be overly sensitive to that and trying to shape their message kind of to say, no, that's not going to happen?
I think people and companies do a bunch of different things. I think when it gets to the essence of what you're saying around, are we going to be replaced? And as we look at AI, or if you're looking at additive manufacturing,
sure.
I have a friend that says if something can be machined, it should be machined. If it's a complex geometry that cannot be produced, it should be additively manufactured, right? The metallurgy and all of those things work to that level. I think that same thing holds true when it comes to these forward-looking technologies. So if you look at AI, like from a marketer standpoint, absolutely, it's going to replace things that that are either repetitive, sound familiar in manufacturing,
right.
Or don't require high cognitive thinking. And so what's interesting is you're seeing data around like pay-per-click advertising. They're now there's machine learning algorithms that are essentially outperforming humans in creating like Google AdWords campaigns or copy for Facebook ads or 90% better performance and open rates in some studies on subject lines, which are the most important factor of getting an email through, is the subject line that you put through.
Right.
And so when you really look at companies and organizations that send content out and communicate at scale like that, that's super powerful. If you can, I mean, that's unfair advantage. And there's even now, iterative type operations in terms of, like, let's say social media advertising, where it's constantly learning and continuous improvement, that Kaizen approach to because of the enabling technologies of AI, natural language processing, natural language generation, and all of a sudden you're seeing outperformance. So if you're going to compete, right, and be competitive in the competition, you have to look at those technologies, and the chips will fall where they may. To the concern side, what you'll see is that on like, the concern is, will humans fully be replaced? And at this time and for the foreseeable future, no. When it takes really understanding the human-human relationship, when it comes to that high cognitive learning things like pay-per-click, doing the repetitive things like ads, or things that could be iteratively tested and improved, because we already test, but it's slow and manual often. That could be replaced, but the setting up the actual advertising strategy, the thinking around the business, the conversations you've had, all of those things are still going to be in the purview when we've looked at these technologies. So it's a balancing act. Not everything's going to be automated or obviously delivered through AI, but more and more, especially since we've seen parity on machine vision, natural language processing, generation, hi Siri, and talking and listening and hearing. Like, more and more, we're even seeing applications where, like, a business's call center, most of those chatbots are actually, you may be having various back and forths with that technology, and it's not even a human, it's AI. I mean, that's already in place. So that's a big question. But I think ultimately it's all about efficiency and what serves the customer best. Absolutely, that should win every time.
Okay, well, that's great, and I think what serves customers best, that's kind of the way we can wrap this up then. James Soto, founder and CEO of Industrial, thanks for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. All right, well, that is all we have time for today. And as usual, if there's someone or something you would like to see on our show, or some topic you would like us to cover, send those ideas to us at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and I will do my very best to cover those topics on the show. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next week on QDL. So long.